I'm Ben Sebastian, here with my co-host S.A. Baz Collins for this week's Written on the Edge Season 10, Episode 7 interview. We'll be talking with Louis DeSimone and discussing his book, Exit Wounds. So, let's get to know our guest. Louis DeSimone has supported his writing habit through a long career in marketing and academic publishing. His debut novel, Chemistry, investigated the impact of mental illness on a gay couple. In subsequent works, The Heart's History and Channeling Morgan, he tackled subjects as diverse as AIDS, drag, cults, and the celebrity closet. At the core of all of his work is the hard and necessary struggle for self-knowledge and acceptance. As his latest novel, Exit Wounds, demonstrates, that effort doesn't end at some magical point of maturity, particularly in turbulent periods like the present, when cultural shifts happen so quickly we don't have time to fully grasp what we're losing in the process. He's a frequent panelist at the Saints and Sinners Literary Conference. He has published fiction and nonfiction in The Advocate, Christopher Street, Chelsea Station, and a range of other journals and literary anthologies. Lewis grew up in Boston and earned a bachelor's degree from Harvard. He also has a master's in creative writing from the University of California, Davis, and after spending 25 years in San Francisco, he retired to Minneapolis, where he lives with his husband. Lewis, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
So I have to ask, San Francisco to Minneapolis, I
Everyone
have
asked that.
I am very well aware with the beauties of Minneapolis. I don't live that far away. I've been there
Hmm.
many times. Everything from the Winter Palace to the Mary Tyler Moore statue to Prince's Museum. I love all of it. But from San Francisco, man.
I know.
Yeah, it
As
amounts
a
to two
as a,
words.
as a, also a San Francisco resident. What?
I can I can summarize it in two words: real estate.
Well,
Fair.
yeah, you got us there.
It's like we wanted to retire, and I had been living in a condo in the Castro, a two-bedroom condo in the Castro, and I loved it, and it was perfectly fine. And then my husband moved in, and suddenly it was kind of small, and we wanted something bigger, and that was just not going to happen in our price range.
Mm,
Not if we stopped working. So we came out here where he has family, and now we traded in the condo for a house three times the size, and we're
nice.
fine.
Nice.
And I stay indoors in the winter. I'm good.
Right? Although I will say Minneapolis has a great indoor habit trail system between all of the buildings.
It does, but only downtown,
I know,
unfortunately.
only downtown. Yeah.
Yeah. So since I don't work downtown,
Oh,
I
fair.
did have one job while I was here, but it wasn't downtown, so I didn't get to use the habit trails.
Ah. All right. Well, speaking of your work, it sounds like you've been surrounded by writing most of your life.
Yes.
But when did you decide to start writing for you as opposed to for marketing firms and academia?
Oh, well, I started. It's kind of, I guess it's the old cliche story of like, I was a little kid and I loved stories and I just immediately knew that I wanted to tell them.
Hmm.
Um, so sometime in my early 20s, I suppose I started writing more seriously. I took a writing class in college, I remember with who I recently found out is a fairly well-known writer. He wasn't at the time. Um, not that I knew. And I would get back my stories from him and he would have crossed out every single adjective. I felt like I was being edited by Ernest Hemingway. There were no adjectives, no adverbs,
Right.
nothing interesting. And I just felt demoralized. Um, but after college, I kind of taught myself to write a little bit, and kept feeling flat. It wasn't really there. And until I came out of the closet and started writing gay stuff.
Hmm.
And suddenly it was alive because I understood it and it was about me.
Right. Right.
And that was the big break. That's what I wrote a short story that got me into the graduate program. That story also became the foundation for one of my subsequent novels. So that was the key thing. It's writing about myself that really made it work. Not necessarily about myself, but about I could invest characters with aspects of my personality and my experience and that of my friends and the culture I knew.
Right. Well, and we will talk about this in a second, but I know parts of exit wounds come from experiences you've had, though not
Yes.
necessarily again you.
Right, right, right.
Perfect.
The
So,
the the danger of doing a first person narrative is that, a lot of readers, particularly friends, say, I love the part where you do this. And I'm like, I didn't do that. That was Craig.
nice. Well, so I know the write what you know topic is a hot button. Some authors embrace it, other authors rail against it because we need to have more diversity in our writing. I say it's a good starting point.
Yes, I agree.
So, on that note, if I were to walk up to you at, say, a book fair or Saints and Sinners and see Exit Wounds on the table and say, "What's this about?" Because
Right.
I would look at the cover and like the title's a little teeny tiny, but the cover itself is an evocative picture.
Yes.
What would you tell me?
It is the story of a man in his 50s, early 50s, who has lived in San Francisco for since he left college. And so he had his foundational years as a gay man in the 90s. So he's experienced gay culture in a very different way than than how it currently feels to him. The
Hmm.
evolution is kind of something that's hard for him to grasp. And he's going through a very difficult period at the moment. He's breaking up with a boyfriend. He's about to lose his job. He sees all these things changing around him. One of his closest friends is dating a millennial, and they just don't, none of the friends can relate to the millennial boyfriend.
Hmm.
So it all becomes kind of a mishmash. He gets called for jury duty and takes it very excitedly because partly it's an escape from the rest of his life and he can focus on something that's not about him for several hours a day.
Hmm.
So that, and ironically, the jury duty does actually have an effect on his perspective about everything else in his life. So it becomes an oddly beneficial thing for him.
All right.
Okay, so
So
what
I'm
I'm
gonna.
hearing is that he wanted to be Mary Richards of San Francisco, but he's more Rhoda Morgenstern.
Well, I think he wants to be Rhoda Morgenstern,
Oh, you
actually.
think he? Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. His thing is that he's a little white bread, you know. He's from Minnesota, so I mean, I'm no disparagement from the place where I currently live,
Right.
but he's got that Scandinavian cool to him,
Hmm.
and he's trying to open up. You'll see that his friends are a lot more fun than he is.
Okay, okay.
All right. But still, so you covered some deeper topics that I don't think people realize are deep topics. One, being middle-aged and gay. I mean, there's that
Who knew
so
we
stupid.
existed?
Well, there's that whole stupid, gay death at 35 thing.
Yeah.
Nope, we don't. We keep living.
Yep.
But two, you've also covered the disappearance of things like gay bars and all of the publications we used to read. I mean, I my formative, adult years were in the 90s, and the same thing. I remember picking them up, hiding them under my jacket, and running home with them, and they're gone.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, even online dating
What
is
what
now this
time
whole.
frame are we talking in the book?
In the book, he graduates college in the early 90s. So the book actually takes place in 2019, but you get references back to
Oh,
earlier time.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so also pre-pandemic.
Yeah, I deliberately chose pre-pandemic because I didn't want to have to deal with another crazy aspect of life. So it's okay, let's put it here.
Right?
It's still during the Trump
Smartphones are
years, so I
bad
get to have a
enough.
little small remembers.
Right.
All right. Um, but no, so going back to some of those topics, I mean, is that part of the loss he feels, is the disappearance of all these things that he sort of knew as safety zones?
Absolutely. One of the central locations in the book is the Twin Peaks Tavern in the Castro, which
Mm,
um, I'm sure every gay person who's been to San Francisco knows the Twin Peaks.
yes.
It's a salvation space for him, and it has the history of being the place where old gays go to die. You know, it's called the glass coffin, the the whatever they call it. It has all these disparaging terms assigned to it because it was where older people went. And now it's his refuge, because kind of the last remnant, not literally, but it feels like the last
Yeah,
remnant of
yeah,
that culture. And he has friends who are, they're on Grinder, and he's like, what is this about?
yeah.
I remember the first time I heard of Grinder many years ago, I was in a bar in San Francisco and was with a friend, and he was on his phone.
Hmm.
And I said, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "He's on Grinder." Like, you're in a room with dozens of attractive men. Why are you looking on your phone for one?
Look up.
So
Look
that's
up.
that's the kind of thing that inspired the book.
Nice.
Excellent. I love that. I love that.
So, my final questions really center around how he saw jury duty, what he saw in jury duty as a focus for his life, as a lens that allowed him to see something.
Right. The the trial is the defendant in the trial is a Latino man who lives in the Mission. And the Mission is a very transitional neighborhood in San Francisco right now. It's being gentrified to the extent that that culture, the Latino culture, the working class culture, is kind of being squeezed. Um, and so by looking at that and seeing people who are different from him, because Craig is very hermetically sealed within the Castro. He knows that aspect of San Francisco. So in the trial, he's exposed to this other aspect, and he sees the ramifications of his more upscale life on these other people and different cultures. And of course, being on a jury just puts you in a room with 11 other people who are all different from you. So he sees things differently, and he sees his own uh, the limitations of his life and how other perspectives can help. And that kind of helps him a lot, the whole process.
Okay,
And
Well,
so
that's
it leads to a major change in the plot.
I
nice.
gotta ask, did you ever watch the Jury Duty show with James Marsden?
Oh, the one where there's the yes, yes. I loved it. I loved it. It was really funny. It's kind of true to life, actually.
Yeah,
All the
no, it
absurd
really
they put in
was.
there. Yeah, so that's the most autobiographical part of this book is that it reflects the trial in the book is very similar to a trial that I was on as a juror. So I wanted to investigate all of that stuff, which I found it fascinating. I found being on a jury just absolutely fascinating.
Nice.
Some people hated it, of course. Most people hate it. They think they're going to hate it, so they hate it.
Mm.
But it was very interesting to me.
Well, can I congratulate you on writing a book about reaching outside your silos?
Hmm.
Because at the core of it, and again, it's not described in the book, but that's what you're doing. You're talking about a man who has lived in a silo and is now reaching outside of it.
Right,
And that is one of the things that we promote on this show is we can't live in our silos anymore. We
Yep.
have got to
right,
embrace everybody who is part of our spectrum.
right. So that
And so,
there's the whole the generational conflict that is so
yeah.
important to the earlier part of the book starts to fall apart. It starts to become more open um, to this. The thing that when I left San Francisco, the 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 argument that I made to myself was this is a young it feels to me like a young person's city. And it was when I was young and I was part of the group that was creating the culture or determining what the culture looked like. And it's still a young city, and there's nothing wrong with that. It can
Hmm.
be their place, they can change it. And if I'm not happy with how they change it, then that's on me. Right? So that's part of what Craig goes through,
Hmm.
recognizing that change is constant and he can't really do anything about it and he might as well just embrace it
Right.
Although I
or
do have
leave
to
like
say,
I did.
I do have to say that I think living in San Francisco myself, there is a general perception by the populace there of its own history. So
Yes.
people in the Bay Area don't wander through life aimlessly. We're very conscious of our history of the city, and people
Right.
tend to do what they can to protect and preserve the history of that city. So that's one of the things that I really loved about living there was that there was a shared consciousness of where you
Yes.
were living. You knew it was special. You knew there was a
Right.
reason Anna Madrigal talked about it so romantically
That's right.
because there is a certain romance you have when you live in that city, you have with that city. It is something that becomes a part of you. And even though
Hmm.
now I'm back down in my home city of San Diego, there are things about me that are strictly Northern California and Bay Area,
Oh yeah.
because it's just
Yeah.
something that seeps into you and that character becomes part of who you are. So I love I
Right.
love one that you did that too, that you did it as an older gay man, because I think our
Hmm.
messaging needs to be better for the young. We need to kind of
Yes.
Hmm.
I was just thinking when you were talking about it, I'm like, we need to have better PR for older gays. We need to say, look, children, we don't disappear. We don't, if you want to think of it in a nice, positive manner, we are the elves that go into the West. We find our own little place. We take a beautiful boat trip.
Right.
and we all end up on a wonderful island where we live out our golden
Oh,
years, because
Right.
I think in some respects, the reason why there is ageism in the gay community is because they're so fearful of when they cross that line. They're so
That's right.
preoccupied with it.
Right.
And I think
right.
that if we do more stories writing about ourselves at this juncture in our lives, it lets the young know, no, no, it's okay. It's okay. You're going to be okay. You know?
Mhm.
Right. Hopefully.
Well, yeah.
Hopefully
I
that's
mean, good
yeah.
decisions,
Yeah.
withstanding, but
Right.
Yeah, I think it's very important to toward the end of the book, there's the notion of being an elder in the community enters the story. So if this idea that there are a lot of young people, one of the things that Craig is rebels against is there are a lot of people who don't seem to know that history, who don't connect with cultural touchstones from the past, who probably don't know who Judy Garland was.
mm-hmm.
It's a stupid example, but that is something.
Hmm.
And so instead of just bitching about it, you can try to educate. You can
Right.
tell them why it's important to know who Judy Garland was, for example.
Curate instead of judge.
Curate.
Yeah.
Mm.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. All right, Lewis, is there anything about exit wounds we didn't ask or cover that you want the world to know?
Hmm. Well, let's see. I can't think of anything in particular. I think we've hit all the hot buttons of it.
Nice.
I do want to say that, it's been called a lot of readers keep saying it's a love letter to San Francisco. So I don't want to, I want to be, I want to, I want to put that in the forefront. It's not just a complaint. It's not a lament about San Francisco. It really is a love letter.
Hmm.
And it's, as you were saying earlier, it sort of touches my heart. The place just touches my heart. And it is a part of me. I lived almost half my life there. So,
Hmm. Love it.
it's very important. And it's a character in the book, really. So,
Yes, it
It
is.
has to be.
yeah.
All right. Well, are you ready for those get to know you questions?
Oh, sure.
Take it away,
Okay.
guys.
Here we go. Can you name a movie that was better than the book?
Um, I My first instinct is The Godfather.
Oh,
I have a
okay.
tendency to I couldn't even finish that book. I thought it was just really terrible. Um, I have a basic belief that on the whole, bad books tend to make good movies, and good books tend to make bad movies.
Yeah,
Love
yeah.
it.
Very, very well said. Very well said. We just did a reaction on Rope Podcast. People sign up and subscribe to our channel for that of Wicked, and the my co-host on that said he goes, "This is I think one case where the movie is definitely better, or the stage play and the movie are
Uh,
better than the book
uh,
because the book is so dark." So
yeah,
I
Hmm.
think that there are quite a few out there that you're right that rule does apply.
yeah, yeah.
All right. So, which fictional character would you most like to be friends with?
That's got to be Auntie Mame.
Oh,
Back to the
patron
back to
Yes.
saint,
the early
right
gay
above,
cut
right
touchstone.
above
Oh, look at
Vance.
that! Life is a banquet. I swear this was not planned because you have the book up there. I actually many years ago I wrote an essay for a book called My Diva, in which it was a series of gay writers talking about who their female icons were,
Okay.
and mine was Auntie Mame, not Rosalind Russell per se, but the character of Auntie Mame.
Sure.
Oh, if
Sure.
you haven't read
Um,
her that autobiography, read it. She
yeah,
is more like
okay.
Mame than you know.
Is she? Oh, fantastic!
Yes.
Yeah, I just thought she was so fun and so open. Uh, life is a banquet, and also she's just welcoming of all sorts of
Yes,
lifestyles
exactly.
and is tearing down barriers from the
Hmm.
Babcocks of the world
Yeah, right. With braces on their brains.
with
Sorry.
braces on their brains.
All right. So, what is the most fascinating fact that you know?
Hmm. Well, I get a lot of my fascinating facts from my husband, who's a scientist. So he
Neat.
has all these things at his fingertips that I just I can't really fathom. One thing that he told me recently was that any two individuals have a most recent common ancestor. So somewhere in our past, there was a person who had one child who eventually from whom I descended, and another child from whom you descended.
Interesting.
And so it's an interesting way of thinking about it. And of course, on a more global scale, he says you can do it with species. Like there's some individual organism, not a species per se, but an individual organism that had two children, one of whom led to human beings and one of whom led to cats. So,
Wow.
so that's heady stuff. I don't think I'm going to write a novel about it though.
No.
Okay, all
No.
right. What's your favorite subject in school?
Oh, that was English literature. So from the beginning, from high school to and in college, I majored in English and
I
read my
actually
brain.
had an English teacher in high school whose last name was English.
That's good. I wonder
Yeah,
if you played pool and put some English on it.
I know, right? Okay, well, before making a telephone call, do you rehearse what you're going to say?
Aside from this interview, um, I only if it's like a business call or if it's a controversial thing,
Mm.
like I a couple of months ago, I called one of my cousins out of the blue because she was on the fence about the election, so I had to rehearse what I was going to say
Curate
to her.
her way to the
Had to
light.
curate her way to
Yeah.
it. It didn't work,
Oh,
unfortunately, but
Mm.
yeah,
well, she's about to FAFO.
Yeah.
she she sure is.
That's the other side of it. Okay, what current event or causes are you passionate about?
God, there are so many to choose from these days. I think I
Give
think
it five
one
minutes, you'll
thing
get
that
a new one.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So one of the things that I am obsessed with in a negative way is technology. Just the idea that this stuff, social media is, as much as I use it myself, I hopefully curate it. Um, but I think it's dangerous for the most part. I think AI scares me, even though there are good things about that, I'm sure. So that just that whole notion and the idea that people are giving themselves over to it a little too easily.
Well, that's what I've always said about social media and now AI is that it develops faster than our emotional intelligence can handle it.
Right, exactly.
Well,
Right.
it's a tool like anything else, and what we need to do is put in the work so that we become craftsmen with that tool, and not just some idiot 4-year-old with a hammer banging on shit. That's
Right. And
really
the
the goal.
problem, of course, with anything like that is that if you've got capitalists running it, their priority is going to be to make money off of it rather
Right,
than thinking about how they
right,
can
right.
actually use
Not
it
the
for the
ethical
Oh,
better.
yeah.
nature of it. Yeah, yeah,
Yes, right.
absolutely. Okay. Well, if you could visit anywhere in the world, where would that be?
The biggest place right now is Stonehenge. I want to see Stonehenge, so we're
Oh,
actually planning a visit this summer to go see that.
I
definitely do
was
the audio thing.
Oh yeah, you've
Yeah,
been?
yeah. They have like
uh-huh.
audio things you hold up, and you can just, as you wander
Hmm.
around it, it tells you the story about it. So
Oh, sounds
rather than
great.
go and read the little plaques and stuff, it's
Right.
kind of neat to listen to what's going on with Stonehenge. So
In a lovely British accent, of
right, of
Yes,
course.
of
course. No,
course.
Yeah.
no, they got a New
Uh,
Yorker to do it. Rosie Perez.
Now that would be funny, actually. Want to
can
hear Joan Rivers do it? Oh,
Yeah,
the
there you go. There you go.
food.
can I make a suggestion? So I went one year at Christmas time. I did Stonehenge on the winter solstice. I did Christmas on Oxford Street, and then I did the actual solstice day itself at Newgrange in Ireland, because there's a cave at Newgrange where the sunlight only comes in on the solstice.
Wow.
So if you can make that trifecta, it's a really amazing trip.
Oh, that sounds great. We may have to rethink this. Where we're going to go in the summer.
Yeah.
I I mean, summer has a solstice too.
That's true. That's true.
There you
You
go.
just don't
There you
get
go.
you don't get Christmas on Oxford
Gonna
Street
get the
then, but
Christmas Oxford trade.
Yeah, yeah. All
Yeah.
right. All right. Well, who, if anyone, was your first celebrity crush?
Oh, that was Jack Nicholson, believe it or not,
really.
circa Chinatown,
Oh,
1974-ish.
Okay.
And I had this. It, it, the strange thing about it at the time was that I thought I wanted to be Jack Nicholson.
mm,
I actually gave this story to a character in one of my novels, but I wanted to be him, and I remember I would go to sleep at night and I would just like beg the gods to wake up as Jack Nicholson.
oh,
It took me a long time to realize that I didn't want to be Jack Nicholson. I wanted to sleep with Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, there you go.
So took a little while for that to
Yeah,
sink
it was just
in.
out of
mhm.
Yeah.
focus.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Final question. What's your personal favorite recipe that you make, and are you willing to share that?
Mm, uh, I don't really have recipes of my own that I don't already borrow from somebody else. My favorite probably is a coconut cake that I make from the America's Test Kitchen
Oh,
cookbook.
I
You
love
know,
those guys.
TV. Yeah, they're fantastic. So they have this coconut cake that I've made several times, and the secret to it is that it has coconut extract in
Hmm.
both the cake and the frosting. So it's the most coconutty thing you've ever eaten.
Yep, they've
It's
learned how to punch up flavors. Yeah.
pretty
You
darn
eat a
good. So
slice and you become a crazy coconut, just like Carol Channing.
exactly. Anyway, so it's in the Americans Test Kitchen cookbook, or maybe they have it online in their recipes on YouTube.
A lot of their older recipes now are locked behind subscription.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I can photocopy it or something.
Or we can encourage
Photocopy
people
or
to
take a
support,
picture of it.
or
Post.
we encourage people to support them. They are a wonderful group. They are there for the consumer to help you figure out what is the best kitchen gear as well as
Exactly.
recipes. And
And
you
they
know,
have,
they obviously aren't supporting this channel, but I'm like, I love their stuff.
that's
I'm
right.
a I'm a fan of cooking experts who use science as well as
That's right.
art.
Yes, they
So
teach you the chemistry of what you're doing, and
they
you're like,
they
whoa,
do.
that's why it works. Oh,
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
cooking is chemistry. Who knew?
Right. I never studied that.
Science, that's a thing.
Well, you made it through the list though.
Yes. Bravo.
Thank you.
So what's up next for you?
Next, I'm going to the Saints and Sinners Festival
Nice.
in March. I'm
Yep.
going to be on a panel where it's not finalized yet who all is on it and exactly what it's going to cover, but that's going to be exciting. And I'm working on a couple of books at the same time. I tend to finish a draft and then put it away for a while. And so while it's percolating in a drawer, I can start working on something else. So right now I'm finishing up a draft of something and then I'll put it away and pull out the other one.
Nice.
And
Wait,
All
they
right.
percolate when you put them away?
they do. They
Oh,
percolate. They percolate in the back of your head.
making a mental note of that one.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. It's just the idea of when you come back to it and you're less enmeshed, it's like you're a third reader. It's like you're reading somebody else's work a little bit if you've
Yeah.
forgotten what happened 6 months
Mhm.
ago. So yeah,
Right, right.
that helps a lot.
And also our subconscious mind continues to work on projects
Sure.
even though
Absolutely.
we've put our conscious mind elsewhere. So it's a really great mechanism for revisiting something.
Right. And you can read a paragraph that you wrote 6 months ago and there's this throwaway line in it. And now looking at it with new eyes, you go, oh God, that's the whole story. Now I have to rewrite it. It's like that's kernel.
Or in my case, well, that was trendy 6 months ago, but it is not now.
Yes, there's that
Right,
too.
right.
There's that too. Yeah.
No, I just like the visual of you open up a drawer and it goes.
I picture my grandmother's little coffee percolator,
Yeah.
big silver thing in the back corner.
Right. When steam
Yep.
comes out when you know it's ready.
Yep.
Right.
If only.
Well, is there a website or a social platform where you are most active that people can get links for what's coming up and the dates for like Saints and Sinners and where you'll be and stuff like that?
Yes. My website is lewisjdsimone.com. And I think you probably have this on your site, right? So
Yeah, we'll put it with the episode.
I'm also on Blue Sky, Louis DeSimone. That's a recent thing. I don't think I gave that to you before.
No.
I got onto that because of,
Yeah,
I'm
well,
thinking
great
first.
migration.
The Great Migration.
Uh-huh.
I'm on Facebook. I have an author page on Facebook as well as a personal one, so the author one's probably easier to get to.
Perfect.
Louis DeSimone author, I guess, is the tag. It's really hard to figure out what the tags are on Facebook because I don't really spell them out for you.
Yeah. But that's what I found for you. So
Okay. Cool.
awesome. Any final words
Where
of
I
wisdom?
am. Final words of wisdom. Yeah, keep reading and share the knowledge, the generational knowledge with the younger people. And we're all part of one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't let their ageism be a stumbling block either.
That's right. Or ours.
Right. No,
right?
true.
Or,
absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The book is in the book. It's the older people who are more ageist than the young ones.
Yeah,
So
true.
that's something.
Why didn't we talk about that?
Why didn't we talk about that? Yeah, we did a little bit. I talked about how
He did. He did.
You did. You
friends
did.
don't like the millennial boyfriend.
So
Yeah, okay.
the final message of this whole interview is become a docent to the children.
Exactly. Curate.
All right, we'd like to extend a huge thank you to Louis DeSimone for joining us. Louis, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This has been really fun. Really fun.
Our pleasure. We at Written on the Edge are proud to introduce you to new media by queer content creators. So if you enjoy learning about new artists or hearing our thoughts on entertainment media, please like and subscribe so you get the alerts for new episodes. The show was produced by Rogue Ravens Media. For our disclaimers, links to social media, our listener stations, or to sign up as a guest, visit www.roguepodcast.com. Tune in next week for your queer media fix.
Bye-bye.
Oh, what's that? Closing time. Bum's Rush and Melody, dear.